State Superintendent Glenda Ritz joined the conversation this week about how to make schools safer and more inclusive for all students. The backdrop for her announcement was Bloomington High School South. It's part of the Monroe County Community School Corporation, which recently updated its anti-discrimination policy to specifically prohibit discrimination or bullying based on a student's sexual orientation or gender identity. Before, it prohibited discrimination toward all students. Claire McInerney from our State Impact Education reporting team explains what changes are being made inside the schools to comply with the new policy and what prompted the changes now.
Superintendent Glenda Ritz took a seat on the stage at Bloomington High School South Tuesday to engage in a conversation about how to make schools safer and more inclusive, especially for LGBT students.
The RFRA debacle, because that's what I'll call it, is not fixed.
She was billed as the guest speaker, but she mostly sat back and listened, taking notes as students shared their experiences, good and bad, of teachers addressing LGBT students in the classroom.
I was talking to a teacher about, a middle school teacher, about my identity as a bisexual, and they just kind of like said, well, you'll pick one.
The student panelists are members of PRISM, a youth group for LGBT students run by Bloomington Pride. They organize the discussion, and Ritz says conversations like this are slowly reaching schools statewide.
I think the conversation's out there already. With the RFRA conversation, it's happening all over the state in our communities, and it's happening in our schools. And I think that we have students who are feeling empowered, so to speak, to bring up issues with their administration. I'm excited that we're having that conversation statewide.
MCCSC is a school district taking these conversations and turning them into actions, such as transitioning these bathrooms at Bloomington High School North into gender-neutral restrooms. This is the most current version of the anti-harassment policy for the district. A few years ago, they added specifically that discrimination or bullying against a student based on their sexual orientation or gender identity is prohibited. But the question now is how to take this policy and make sure it turns into actions that make school a safe and inclusive place for LGBT students. Meet Greg Chaffin. He's a school counselor at Bloomington High School North, and he's working to implement some of the changes spelled out in the document. He says the policy helps establish a precedent for eliminating negative attitudes toward LGBT students.
We can address that bullying, where we can make sure that it doesn't happen again. And we have the administration behind us and the whole community behind us when there's a policy in place.
Earlier this year, the PRISM students created a curriculum for teachers with different modules to help teachers understand issues LGBT students deal with and why things such as gender-neutral restrooms and using a student's preferred pronouns are important to making them feel comfortable at school. MCCSC asked to use the training, and later this month, all of the principals and administrators in the district will participate in a session led by PRISM students.
Specifically focused on the forefront on terminology and just making sure everyone understands some of the topics they discussed tonight, how to address students, what different terms mean and why it's appropriate and necessary that we use them.
Ritz says she is encouraged by the activism of these students, and although her role as a statewide policymaker doesn't allow her and the Department of Education to make sweeping changes, they can help local districts if they are thinking about changes similar to what MCCSC is doing.
What I did come away with are ways that I might be able to support and answer questions when local school corporations are thinking about what they might need to do to help address student issues. And so that's why I was taking notes and seeing how I'm going to be helpful in the future.
For Indiana News Desk, I'm Claire McInerney.
There's no statewide policy for school districts regarding anti-discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity, and State Superintendent Ritz says that will likely stay as a local decision.